Shabbat Shalom, Parashat Terumah. We entered Rosh Chodesh Adar, the month of joy and celebration. And as we look for the next 2 months, as we have a double Adar this year, for ways to celebrate and bring more happiness into our lives, we also enter into our 4 Parashiot saga of the construction of the Mishkan, the glorious building of a home for Kadosh Baruch Hu. These 4 Parashiot are going to examine every aspect of the construction of the Mishkan, from the measurements to the detailed aspects of the construction, to the people involved in the construction, and to the delicate, intricate spiritual elements that are behind every single one of these instruments of the service of God. One may ask the obvious question, why would God, a spiritual, non-physical being, need a home? In fact, how could we possibly construct a physical construct that is supposed to house God that fills the entire world? And indeed, the Torah answers this question with a very simple and poignant sentence. Kadosh Baruch Hu instructs us very clearly, "V'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham." Betocham, you may ask. Betocham means within them. V'asu li mikdash should have been v'shachanti betocho. But of course, the objective is not for God to dwell within a construct, but rather to give us a place, a focal point, for which we could reach out to Kadosh Baruch Hu and sense a greater degree of closeness than we do in our daily lives. But in fact, the ultimate objective here is not to construct an outer structure for God to dwell in, but rather to construct something that will enhance our ability to sense Kadosh Baruch Hu betocham, deep within ourselves. This is the true mission here. The true mission is to design tools around our lives to allow us to sense and feel the presence of God within us in every minute of our day. Indeed, every single one of the tools that will be constructed for this Mishkan will have different aspects that will enhance our understanding of the presence of God and the tools by which we could reach out and feel closer to Him. I would like to take one particular object that raises some serious question marks as to the nature of this construction and give it a perspective that was given by my grandfather. We learn about the construction of the Kruvim. These angelic figures, golden angelic figures that are placed on top of the ark, on top of the Aron, inside Kodesh HaKodashim, inside the Holy of Holies. In the face value, the mere fact that we are constructing physical objects, somewhat of a human figure within the context of such a spiritual place, may send someone into dangerous arenas that have shadings of idolatry. We may be confused by this. And in fact, when we learn that the faces of these angels were baby faces, we may become even more perplexed. But yet, if we look back carefully throughout Chumash, we may discover that this term, Kruv, this particular element, angelic figure, appears once before, long ago. Think back into the early days of Sefer Bereshit. You may discover that the only other place that these Kruvim appear are immediately after the sin of Adam and Chava, when they were kicked out of Gan Eden, and they find themselves going into exile. Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, is sealed forever to the living. And God places at the entrance of Gan Eden, at the gate, Kruvim. The same Kruvim. But there we are told they are given a double-edged sword to protect the entrance to the Garden of Eden. And they are defined as Malachei Chabala, angels of destruction. My grandfather asked, how is it possible that the same angels, these Kruvim, can be on one hand angels of destruction, and on the other hand symbolize the ultimate presence of God? These angelic figures that were on top of the ark were the source from which the voice of God was heard, as the Torah describes to us that Moshe would hear the voice of God speaking, mi bein hakruvim. How is this possible? Says my grandfather, indeed, this is a fundamental lesson in the power of education of our children. And the choices that we make with our children will determine the type of life that they have. Indeed, we have a choice. We could choose to bring our children as close as possible to God. Place them nice, centered, and close to the ark. This is a phenomena that exists every single shul throughout the Jewish community. How many of us come to shul, sit down, and have our children run outside and play, instead of having them sit next to us during davening to try to absorb the beauty of our tefillah, the beauty of our song towards Kadosh Baruch Hu? Oh, they're very young, we say. They get bored. It is difficult for them to sit. They disturb. All these are nothing more than feeble excuses. Clearly, the Torah is trying to teach us a valuable lesson in education. If you want your child to grow to be the kind of child that seeks the presence of God, that has an angelic baby face throughout his life, make sure that he is close, always close to God. Have him sit next to you in shul. Have him sit and be inspired by your behavior and your conduct in shul. Indeed, if your choice is different, if you think that the proper place for your child is outside by the door, let him be a child, let him go out and play. In fact, in that very moment, you have put a double-edged sword in his hand, and you've ensured the path to making him into a malach habala. The Kruvim represent to us the potential of man. From early childhood, all we really need to do is seek the closeness of God. And as we learned last week, all you really need to do in life is make sure that be'alav imo, that your owner, that your creator is closely with you at all times. And you are ensured to hear the voice of God echoing between your wings. Shabbat Shalom and Chodesh Tov.